Hello, IWA juniors, and welcome to your first Ed Puzzle video. This is about what you can expect. I'll awkwardly talk into the camera, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Pull up the Google Slides, and we will get going. This is your first video. This is the video for the L1D Day 3. It will actually be our large group in the cafeteria on Tuesday, D-Day. It's entitled The Purpose of Creation. So every civilization has creation stories. If you look back at all the different ancient civilizations, they all asked, where do we come from and why are we here? And creation stories actually reveal that culture's belief about humanity's purpose, about their accepted truth. It doesn't so much tell you, creation stories don't so much tell you scientifically how they think they got there. They're meant to answer the question, why are we here? What is our purpose? And so every culture has told these stories throughout time. Those are the big questions we ask as well. Where do we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? That's what creation stories answer. So what you can expect, in just a second, I'm going to switch the slides so this slide isn't up, and a question's going to pop up that you will then have to answer before this video can move on. So be ready to answer the question right about now. Okay, hopefully you got that right. Now the next thing, sometimes what I'll do is I'll have you read a little section from the book. So you will need your book for this Ed puzzle. And if you get that green book and you go to page 10, the very first page of content, what I'd like you to do is start in the second paragraph. It says, for example, some ancient peoples believed ... And I'd like you to read to the final bullet point on page 11. And then be ready to answer a question right now. So just a summary of that, right? Many ancient cultures actually had a lot of different beliefs about why we were here. We have gotten so used to those Christian creation stories, the ones in the Bible. It's important to remember that for years, most people believed that that was not our purpose for existence. They believed we were created for the amusement of the gods, to feed their egos. Today, a lot of people believe that we don't really have a purpose, that our existence is accidental, that there is no God. There's actually one creation story in particular I'd like us to take a look at, and we're actually going to look at this in class on Tuesday, and it's called the Enuma Elish, and it's a Babylonian creation story. And in this story, humans are actually created to be slaves to the gods. So they're created to be servants who do the gods' will, not in a loving way, but in a almost like a punishment, in a subordinate way. And so that's just a very different image that we have there from these Christian creation stories. So creation in the Bible, what's actually going to happen is I'm going to have a link pop up from the second chapter in the book of Genesis, and I'd like you to read this creation story. And then what will pop up is another question, and you have to be ready to answer a question about this passage, this Christian creation story from the Bible. And now the question. All right, moving on. So in Genesis, it's very different from that Babylonian creation story. Humans are lovingly crafted. It says that God crafts humans out of dirt, out of the clay. You almost get, if you've ever seen someone make pottery, they're very careful, very loving. They are very intentional with how they move their hands. And that's the image we get for how God created us, and that we're made in God's created image. So what is our purpose? Why are we here? Catholicism, Christianity says God creates humans to live in a loving relationship with God. And this is the foundation of morality, is that we're meant to live forever with God. Because if that's our purpose, then morality is meant to teach us how to live out that purpose. How do we live forever with God? How do we live in loving relationship with God and others? That's going to be so important to who we are as people. It's foundational to everything when we talk about right and wrong. Our purpose has to be in the background of everything. We're created to live in loving relationship with God. All right, this is the final slide. So I want to talk a little bit about restlessness. So Christianity believes that there is a human craving for God that cannot be satisfied by earthly experiences. So imagine that we had almost like a God-shaped hole in our hearts. And we try to fill that with lots of different things, but nothing ever really fulfills us or sustains us in the same way that God does. Why? Because that's who we were created to be. St. Augustine is a famous saint, lived in the 400s, 300s, and 400s AD. And he had this midlife conversion. He had lived an entire life seeking money and power and prestige. He had some illegitimate children. He liked the ladies. But after he had his conversion, he has this famous line where it says, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Our hearts are restless until they rest in you. This idea that without faith, without God, that we are unfulfilled, we are restless, we are constantly seeking something and we don't know what it is, and that it's God. Why? Because that's who we were created to be. So the Christian belief is that our deepest desires are fulfilled only by God because it's written into who we are. It's part of our creation. Now the world says it's very different. The world says it's money, it's sex, it's power, prestige, more stuff, that's what will make us happy. But I want you to think about, in this question that we'll pick up on Tuesday, do these things really fulfill us? Think about celebrities who have all of that, who have money, sex, power, prestige, possessions. Do they often seem fulfilled? Some of them certainly do, but a lot of them don't. I'd like you to think about that as we prepare for class on Tuesday. Be ready to answer the final question here. Sorry, that part was a little awkward. I forgot, from last year how I usually do that. So anyways, look forward to discussing this in our large group on Tuesday. As always, like, comment, and subscribe if you got anything to say. And we'll see you on Tuesday.